Hey guys, and welcome to Quality Shot. As you can see, England versus New Zealand semi-final preview, and we're going to be doing the semi-finals because the Super 12s are now over. So we forget about that, and we look forward to only the best teams and the best, of course. So England, New Zealand, Pakistan, and Australia. Everyone else doesn't matter anymore. No, I'm just joking. But there are the only 4 teams left. Asjad, how are you doing? As Asjad will go through the semi-finals with us.
I'm good. Thank you for having me on as always. And repping Pakistan in this England versus New Zealand game. So I'm enjoying it. And very excited about the last few days of this T20 World Cup. Gonna be a lot of fun.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's because whoever wins this will face Pakistan in the final. That's why. England versus New Zealand, then the replay of the 2019 World Cup, that infamous victory for England. I say infamous, it's probably the famous victory, really. Winning by boundary count, obviously the super over and the barrister margins, all of that. But England obviously winning their first World Cup, their first ODI World Cup, but they have won the T20 World Cup before under Paul Collingwood, and obviously Kevin Peterson winning the MVP of that tournament. New Zealand haven't won one yet, and in fact, they haven't won any World Cup yet, if I'm not mistaken. Only a Champions Trophy. So, yeah, New Zealand obviously looking to stop and buck that trend. They have been one of the better white ball, well, not white ball, one of the best cricket teams in the world for the last couple of years, alongside England. Asjad, Google says 61% England probability to win. What are your thoughts initially on this? Then we'll get into kind of the team news and selection, etc., and matchups.
I think it's a fair assessment. New Zealand definitely has a chance. So 39% makes complete sense. But England are the favorites. England, yes, they lost against South Africa because genuinely they didn't need to win that game, right? They just need to score past 87. And they scored 170, 180 odd. So, they still got very close. And England are favorites, especially to win the tournament now as well. But England against New Zealand, England are obviously favorites. But New Zealand have their way of coming at you, right? They aren't a one-man army, right? They are a collective. They're a unit. All their players can perform in different scenarios and help them win the game. They're a master of, a low-scoring game. And definitely if New Zealand bowl first, and it's in Abu Dhabi, right? We have to remember that there's going to be dew. Especially England with no Tamal Mills and no Jason Roy. Mostly the Tamal Mills thing. With Mark Wood, it might just go flying off the scales in terms of, boundaries and, catches slipping here, missed fields, etc. So yeah, if New Zealand bowls first, I think New Zealand have a very strong chance. But in terms of initial predictions, 61% to England makes complete sense.
Yeah, in terms of the record between the two, because I'm sure everyone loves stats, England winning 13 out of the 21 matches they played. But the last 5 matches have actually gone 3-2 to England. So quite tight. And then if we look at World Cup history, the last match they played each other was in the 2016 World Cup, which is the last World Cup, the T20s. It was in Delhi, and England beat New Zealand by 7 wickets. So a comprehensive victory for the Lions. Asjad, then let's go into the team news. You mentioned Tymal Mills and also Jason Roy being injured, which are big misses, to be fair, for England. But they've got such good strength and depth, they will be able to fill the gaps. It's just a question of how well can they fill the gaps. England, I guess, looking at the team then, I guess it's a question of what do they do in terms of the opening spot. I think most likely they are going to go with Mark Wood instead of Tymal Mills. It's now a question of, do they move, for example, Bairstow up to open, or do they just bring in a new opener altogether, like James Vince? Do they do something crazy, which I think Aaron mentioned, which is put David Willey up to open, which would be absolutely ridiculous. And then David Willey would, I guess, bowl as well, left arm angle, which is quite useful. The left arm angle is useful. But to be fair, in the T20 blast, he does open the batting. He just whacks it, basically. But the left arm, right arm combination at the top. Who knows? Imagine if he did it and then got 50, it would be hilarious. But anyways, the other option is, which I think they will do, but Moeen Ali, but I don't think they'll do that. They'll mess him about because he's batted well at 3, 4, 5, wherever he's batted in the last few games. So, number one, what do you think they'll do? And number two, what would you do rather than what they do?
So I think England might do the Bairstow Buttler thing, as you mentioned. I would personally like to see Livingston open, because I think Livingston would be able, right? Livingston might be able to do the same thing that Roy does and give Buttler enough time to then go absolutely, insane in the last 10 whatever overs if he hangs in there. So I think England probably will go with Bairstow, but I would like them to go with Livingston. That will give them a really good kind of opening partnership. And again, both have blonde hair, so kind of a like-for-like replacement, aren't they, Roy?
Yeah, exactly the same people, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Same DNA. No, but basically, I disagree with you on that. The reason why is because I feel that Livingston is too important to open the batting and fail, if that makes sense. I think when you then go through the order, and considering if you think about how congested that middle order is with the left-handers, Livingston breaks up the left-handers. So if you've got Morgan, you've got Milan, Morgan, and Moeen Ali, that's three. Realistically, you've only got Bairstow in there, whereas if you've got Livingston there, you can break it up as well, which is better. Personally, they could go with Dowd Milan to open, who actually has opened for England in the past in T20s as well, by the way. So that's interesting. And that would be like... The only issue with that is that obviously he will be the anchor. So then what you would have is Buttler...
going crazy.
Probably potentially getting out early because he's trying to be a bit more aggressive. Because what normally happens is he's a bit slower for the first 2-3 overs and then he starts accelerating. Will he feel the pressure with Milan opening with him, who might go out a run a ball or less for the first couple of overs? I don't know, but that could be an option.
I think Milan's a really good option. Milan
and Buttler, right? Because left hand, right hand, not just that, but the fact that Milan is open before he does open for Middlesex, I think, in the T20 stuff anyways. And then you could just, go from there, right? And you've got Bairstow, etc. I actually personally would like to see that. However, the option of Bairstow and Buttler is the option they will go with. And actually, I don't mind that either, because I just think Bairstow is a very good opener. So I think he's quite unlucky not to open any of the T20 stuff. So, which I think we mentioned, but obviously Buttler, we're not going to get into that discussion because he's just phenomenal opening and averaging 60. So I can't say anything bad about that. But Bairstow is very good. The issue then is, who do they bring to the middle order? So I guess for me, and I think either way, depending on who you open with, you still have to bring someone in. I would bring in Sam Billings. One, he's proven that he's quite a decent, solid white ball player. And two, he's a very good fielder, but that's not the reason I bring him in. But three, he's a right-hander as well, which I'm going on about the right-hand, left-hand thing, but I do think it's important. Although in saying that, I do say about the left-handers, but New Zealand don't have an off-spinner unless they play Williamson. Unless they're obviously going to play Williamson unless they bowl Williamson, because Sodhi turns the ball away from the right-hander. So does Santner. I guess the only thing is if Sodhi bowls a lot of googlies, but
Phillips can bowl as well, can't he? I think
he can bowl. Yes, Phillips is like, he's like that really annoying player at the club who's just good at everything. So he can bat and he can keep really well and he can bowl off spin really well. It's just like, and he's a phenomenal fielder. It's just like, can he stop being good at everything? And he's like that guy there'll be one guy at the club, right, who would just bowl off spin. And he's just like slaving away bowling off spin. And then Glenn Phillips will just turn up and they'll be like, "Are you not a wicketkeeper?" We're like, "Oh, I can bowl a bit of off spin," and he'll bowl off spin better than him. And it's just like, can he?
He's one of those.
What? And he's just, he's like, "Do you bowl much?" "No, not really." But just turn my arm over some. Like, stop it. Anyway, which is classic. He's just one of those guys who's just good at everything, clearly. But I guess they might bowl him, as you said. But what do you think? What do you do? Who do you bring in?
To be honest, there's two ways they could go about it. They could say, we've lost a batsman, right? Let's bring another batsman in, which is the Sam Billings approach. You could go in and say, oh, we could get another bowler or anything like that. But I think that's highly unlikely. I think I would go with the Sam Billings approach as well. Not because of just the right-handed stuff, but do you remember what he's done over the past year or so in white ball cricket? Like, he's been absolutely crazy.
I mean, ODI cricket has been incredible.
Right? Batting at 5 or 6, depending on wherever he bats. I think he can be a similar floater as well in that lineup. So definitely, if England go with the two right-handers at the top, you got Buttler and you got Bairstow, then Billings coming in there, you get a good mix of Moeen Ali, Billings, Livingston, and Eoin Morgan in that top 6. So that's definitely not a bad shout, especially replacing that one very solid opener that they now, unfortunately, is out due to injury. But yeah, I think Sam Billings is probably the best choice. I can't believe I'm agreeing with you. But yeah, Sam Billings is probably the best choice for Zan.
Yeah, I think the only other option is if they go with David Willey for the left arm.
They're not going with David Willey.
Yeah, I don't think they will either. I mean, they dropped him from the World Cup for Archer. They clearly didn't like him, so it's fine.
Yeah.
He won't get a game, but he's just there to make up the numbers. Or they go. I mean, Reece Topley definitely won't. But the reason I say David Willey is because he can bat. He's a pincher to make. He'll just come in and whack it. But I think they've got enough of those, honestly, in the side. So I think that's all sorted. New Zealand, no real injury concerns unless I'm mistaken. But in terms of the side, what do you think? I mean, first of all, I'll ask you the same question. What side do you think they'll go with? Do you think it'll just be unchanged? And what side would you go with? Would you change anything? Because at the moment, they're going with it's Guptill and Mitchell, so two right-handers opening up. Williamson, then Conway, Phillips, and then you've basically start going into your rounders, and you've got Neesham, Santner, and then you've got Sodhi, Southey, and Boult. I think that's 11. And Milne, sorry, yeah. So they've got a relatively longer tail, obviously. But as you said, they are more of a bowling side, I think we can honestly say. What would you do? Would you stick to that side? Would you stick to that side? And do you think they'll stick to that side?
I think they'll stick to that side. But a big point I want to make is how the pitch is potentially going to behave. Okay. What if it's a pitch that they're like, oh, maybe we don't need to go in with six potential bowlers, right? Maybe we don't need to go in with 2 or 3 spinners. Maybe we only need to go in with 2 spinners and 4 pace bowlers, right? So I would genuinely stick with the same side. I think they will as well. The only shocker is Tim Seifert, right? Because Tim Seifert is a keeper and he can bat at the top and he can bat lower down the order. Right? It's only in an instance where they think they need a longer batting lineup, they make some sort of change like that. Barring that, honest to God, Fazan, it's going to be very highly unlikely that New Zealand change a winning combination. All right, right. In terms of Pakistan, in terms of the only match they lost was because they didn't have Ferguson or Milne, and that was against Pakistan. After that, as soon as Milne came in, they haven't made any changes. So for me, I think New Zealand will stick to that side. Doesn't matter about the left hand for them as much because, England obviously has spinners that spin both ways as well.
Exactly.
But, so they're going to stick with the top that they've got. And surprisingly, Mitchell's done well. So I don't see them making a decision to take out Mitchell unless there's an injury or, when they get on the day, they make a strategic decision of dropping someone and playing someone else.
Thing is, you say about Mitchell being surprising. I think he is slightly.
Opening up, because I expected him lower down in the order. I didn't expect him for New Zealand to open up. That's what I'm trying to say.
So he opened up in, I think, is it the Slam it's called in New Zealand? And he basically had the best figures out and he blasted it, literally slammed it, if you will, no pun intended. And and then also I think he in fact, I'm pretty sure, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, in domestic cricket, he had, for the season, the best figures in terms of batting-wise in all 3 formats.
That's right.
Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he literally has been that good. He's just been in ridiculous form. And obviously, he can bowl a little bit as well. So he won't bowl here, but in the test match stuff, he does bowl. So, Carl Jamieson, I guess, is the only one. Mark Chapman is another one, but he's an all-rounder. He can bat lower down. Left arm spin, but then they've got.
It's highly unlikely.
Yeah,
if the pitch is a bit bouncy, maybe they'll consider someone like Jamieson. But Milne hasn't had the best of times, but he hasn't been bad, right? He's been good. He's been okay / good.
And he's raw space. He's raw pace, right? So he's different to Jamieson. That's the thing. It's funny because I remember when Jamieson had that massive tag getting bought for RCB in the IPL, and I didn't really watch it, but I heard about that. And I said to you, I was like, I'm so surprised because I know they need that specific type of player. You were saying to me, but I just said, he's not proven in T20s yet. His record's actually not very good and he's very new to T20 cricket.
International,
and that didn't quite work out for him then, the stint, if I'm not mistaken, at RCB, really. And he's now been dropped from the T20 side. And I actually said to you, I remember I think we both agreed, but I definitely said, I remember saying that I think he'd be lucky to get into the side, and that's basically what's happened here. So, phenomenal player generally. It's a test match player, one of the best test bowlers around. Really good ODI bowler as well. Not a bad T20 bowler, just not in the best 11, I think. So, he'll work on that, and he's still pretty young, so I'm sure he will be. But at the moment, something to work on. Matchups. What are the important matchups? I know you love talking about that, so we'll talk about that now. Trent Boult, obviously, most likely is someone who we know is so important to New Zealand. Trent Boult to Bairstow. Bairstow can be a little bit of an LBW candidate, to be fair. I'm not going to talk about Buttler because he's in such good form, and at the moment he doesn't look like he's got any weakness, so just forget about it. But Milan as well to spin. I know you said that obviously he's looked a bit better, but to Sodhi and Santner, how do you think he fares there? And do you just think it's a case of, for example, Trent Boult was going to have to take some early wickets to really make a big dent early doors?
Yeah, so Southee and Boult need to keep doing what they've been consistently doing for New Zealand for so many years, which is picking up wickets in the power play, okay? Once they've got that, getting Buttler early and getting whoever else, like getting England 2 down in the power play doesn't mean that England still isn't going to get 200. It just means they'll be slower to start attacking again, which means they'll be in more of a defensive mindset, which also means when Sodhi and Santner come in and Milan is batting, right, Milan will find it difficult. If Milan is just attacking spinners, I think he's a lot more comfortable than trying to defend spinners in these conditions. So that's something that New Zealand will definitely be looking at. So early wickets, 100%. And then you've already mentioned the fact that Buttler is in such good form. Getting him out early is absolutely crucial, because the best comparison I can make right now is Babar Azam, right? Muhammad Rizwan, David Warner in a couple of games. Buttler is that type of player. If he's in, he's going to be in till the end, and he's going to smash it all over the place. So, Buttler is absolutely crucial to get in the power play for sure.
Yeah, agreed. And then I think in terms of the flip side, Adil Rashid potentially might open the bowling because they've got 2 right-handers in Mitchell and Guptill. Guptill is not the best when it comes to spin, although in saying that, he did play spin quite well, opening up, I think it was against Namibia, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously there's a difference in class here with Adil Rashid. What do you think? I mean, are we thinking that, again, they are gonna do that? They're gonna go Adil Rashid to open up, and is it crucial for England as well? They pick up early wickets because Guptill's been in very good form. Mitchell can also hit. They've got the stability of Williamson and then Conway coming in who can switch gears, and then Phillips and Neesham can finish. So what do you think? Is it a case of, again, the spinners for England? They've got Rashid who will bowl, obviously away from the right-hander. It's quite important. Moeen Ali probably might be quite crucial for Devon Conway and also for Neesham, and then Livingston obviously will spin the ball both ways as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. The spinners for England would be key. And you mentioned Adil Rashid opening up for England. I think that's definitely going to be a tactic they use, considering what they're playing in Abu Dhabi as well. I think it depends highly on the fact what happens at the toss, because no doubt that it's been very much favorable for teams batting second. I think in Abu Dhabi it's a lot more than Dubai. So if whichever team bats first, I think they're going to struggle anyways. So let's assume in this scenario, right? You've got New Zealand batting, you've got England bowling. Adil Rashid spinning the ball away from Martin Guptill, spinning the ball away from Daryl Mitchell. It's going to be difficult for them. But on the other end, they don't need Mark Wood to be bowling at that point, right? They don't need Mark Wood to be bowling much in the power play, similar to what Hassan Ali does for Pakistan, which is you don't bowl him much in the power play because he has a propensity to go for runs in the power play.
Do you think that? That's an interesting point, because I always saw Mark Wood. I remember, was it against Pakistan or someone else? Maybe Australia.
It was against Australia.
When Mark Wood and Archer opened up, right, and they were just ripping through that. I understand the pitches are different, but Mark Wood, to me, it seems like when he bowls in the middle, he gets hit more, because it's just almost like he's got an older ball and is doing less, and he is not as skilled bowler as some of the other seamers. Let's be honest, he's not. So if he can get a little bit with that new ball at the pace he's bowling, it's potentially worth it, the risk reward. And what do you think?
I understand where you're coming from, But if you got Wokes, right, they're gonna go Adil Rashid Wokes. They're gonna go Adil Rashid Wokes, and then they might ball Wood. I think that
as long as he gets an overall 2 in the power play is what I'm saying. Because normally they don't go 2 and 2, do they? Don't normally go.
Yeah, they'll probably go 1-1, 1-2 stuff. Yeah, but Wood could get it, and no puns intended there. But with Mark Wood, if he's bowling with Jofra Archer or if he's bowling with Tamal Mills, I think that's when him opening up the bowling makes sense to me, because you've got attacking, you've got aggressive bowlers, you got 95 mile an hour bowlers both ends. If you got one 95 mile an hour bowler and then you got a completely different thing on the other end, I don't think they'll utilize Mark Wood like that, if that makes sense. You see what I mean? But I understand where you're coming from. With the new ball, if he can get the ball to swing, he is very, very dangerous. I don't see it happening, though. I think the earliest he bowls is like the 5th over or maybe the 6th, hardly. But in the first 4 overs, it's probably going to be Adil Rashid, Chris Wokes, and then, Bob's your uncle, man.
Bob's not my uncle, thank you.
Is he not? Is Bobber not your uncle?
No, Barbara isn't. Barbara's my uncle. Come on, please, Barbara, come on and do an interview. We're the same age, and you're not my uncle. But yeah, so England, New Zealand, man. So I think it sounds like you're saying England to win. I always like making weird predictions. I'm going to go New Zealand to win.
If New Zealand wins, I will come on your channel and admit I was wrong.
Usher, we do this every time we talk anyway. We both admit that we're wrong at some point. It's not like we're right about many things.
It's not anything surprising anymore.
It's not. Yeah, it's nothing big anymore. But yeah, I appreciate it anyway. Cool. I'll do a separate video for the Pakistan Australia one because we've gone a bit longer. But thank you guys for tuning in. Do remember to subscribe to Usher's channel, Quick Frost 2.0, Quick Quality Shot. That is my channel name, Quality Shot. And do click the notification bell as well to both channels and make sure you get alerts to all new videos.